Welcome, fellow explorers. Very excited to be here talking to you about your upcoming trip to the Northwest Passage, an absolutely incredible, memorable journey. Our aim today is to feed you with information that you on the question answer the questions that are burning before you pack your bags and you go on join the ship. So, as a short introduction, we talk now overview of the trip, what to take, what to expect to see, the excursions and activities, and a little bit more of the practical information. We have, as Lee said, we've taken in all the questions that you pre-sent us. Thank you very much for those. That has really helped us build these slides to answer your questions. But if you do have more questions during the chat, then please put them in the chat box. And we've got an amazing team behind. We've got the biggest team ever, I think. We've got Ollie, we've got Alice, we've got Maria, we've got Lasse, Tony, Lee, Olga, and Maria, all answering questions behind us. So we're just the faces. So thank you very much, team in the background, for taking those questions. I'm really lucky that we're joined today by my good friends and colleagues, Verena, who's our chief scientist, heads up all our science and education program, and Karen, our head of expedition development. So really working on what these trips look like. Okay, we will crack on. So the Northwest Passage, that fabled route from the east to west, or west to east, as we also do it, across the roof of America through the Canadian Arctic archipelago. It's really a massive journey, a big undertaking, and steeped in history, which you all know about. So we're not going to dwell on trying to sell you another trip to the Northwest Passage, but give you that information, give you what you need to know. Really, for us, we really look at our heritage. We really look to make sure that the sustainability of what we do and the impact, but also look at the curious and the education part of all our trips. And all our trips are that blend of adventure, the comfort of the ships, and the sustainability. For these trips, our ship running east to west is Fridtjof Nansen, and west to east is Roald Amundsen. So, of course, just the names of the ships steeped in the history of the Arctic. But yeah, purpose-built expedition vessels, highly super comfortable, and a little bit of a flair of what to expect from your cabins on board. Super comfortable. I love the beds when I go on board. I sleep really well. But also, if you are thinking of looking at your cabins, I understand from our team that we do have a few suites that are still available. So if you are looking to upgrade and make your trip even more comfortable, then contact our teams and we'll be able to help you. On board, Karen, would you like to introduce the team on Amundsen?
I can.
Our guests will have.
I can, absolutely. So from left to right, we have Haris, a hotel manager from Croatia, and then you have Rune Alme, Norwegian captain, and we have our American expedition leader Yibo Lee, who has been with us for a while. And just want to say, Tudor and I trained Yibo to what it is today. So if you don't like the training, then you can blame us.
Yeah, poor Yibo. Yeah, so those are the team, the senior management team you'll expect on those joining Amundsen. And then for Nansen, Verena, are you okay introducing our great team on
Yes, of course. So hotel manager will be Gabi, our lovely woman from Brazil. We will have Captain Frank Martinsen, also from Norway, and Torstein, EL expedition leader from Norway. They Brilliant. Will also be a fantastic team.
Yeah. So on both ships, an incredibly experienced team, navigators in charge of care, and also the onboard experience for you also. We thought we'd show you their faces so you know what you're going to be who's going to be talking to you for a period of time. On board, which we're now all inclusive, so you don't need to dip your hands in your pockets for day-to-day things. That includes Wi-Fi, which is Starlink satellite, but again, it's a satellite connection, including drinks throughout the day, cocktails, etc., etc. So there's all those elements. And then we've had lots of questions about what to pack. Verena, would you like to talk us through what to pack on board?
Yes, of course. So we
Oh,
don't really have a dress code on board the ship. It's casual, relaxed. So whatever you feel comfortable wearing will be the appropriate thing to put in your suitcase. We do recommend to have comfortable flat shoes for when you are on board, preferably with a good grip if you are going to go out on the decks, which we also recommend to do as much as possible. So good shoes to be on board. And of course, always sunblock, sunglasses. Don't forget your cameras and small and extra batteries and cards. We also recommend you to bring a small waterproof backpack to go out and about. And don't forget your swimming gear if you want to make use of our hot tubs and sauna. There's also a gym, so you can also bring your outfit for that. And of course, the most important thing not to forget, and we will talk about them a bit later, are your binoculars.
exactly. And just, I know we've also had some questions about what's the temperature on board.
Right.
Again, our engine control room controls the temperatures and they can tweak it. But generally, onboard temperature is around 20 Celsius, that's 68 Fahrenheit. So super comfortable, like a home. But as Verena's mentioned, be prepared for going in and out on from inside to outside on deck to enjoy the scenery. And Karen, when our guests, our fellow explorers, go outside or on our boats, etc., what do we recommend?
We recommend that you bring waterproof pants because you are going to be in open boats. So that would be really a big ask for us to do. And then you get a jacket. The blue one you can see on the right hand of the picture is a very good jacket, 20,000 millimeter of waterproofness. So it has good waterproofness. Then layering system. We believe in layering system when you're outside. So have a good base layer, which again, Norwegians and us who've been in the polar regions for a while, wool and wool and wool. But also fleece does cut it. We do want you to have walking shoes when we go into these communities. Yeah, exactly. However, when we do nature landings, you will be given rubber boots. We're going to come back to those.
We're going to go big on boot. We're going to go big on boots this time.
Big on boots.
Based on the questions, yeah.
We're big on boots. Well, we'll tell you why. We'll tell you why in a little bit. So scarves, hats, and warm socks is important. And always bring with you a bit of local currency. And for that will be Canadian dollars in this sense. And we got a lot of questions about how much. We've kind of said between 300 and 500 because you are going to different small communities and be able to buy artifacts and so forth there. It is to be recommended to do that. It means a lot to the local community, and not everybody has fancy card machines when you come, and they've been sitting all winter and doing their artifacts. So just
and also remember, as well as Canadian dollars, the trips start or finish in Nome, so US dollars, and also in Greenland, which is Danish kroner. So it's good to have a bit of mix of those currencies.
But when you come to Greenland, there's more use of especially for this trip where you are going to be in Ilulissat and in Sisimiut. They have all shops and so forth. They have card machines there, so I'm not too worried about that. Have a few Danish krone, but you can also get it in Sisimiut itself. But
Canadian dollars, I think.
Yeah, Canada, super important. Yeah.
Okay, just to sort of recap on a few parts of those before we go into the boot discussion. And Karen, I'm going to hold you to time on the boot discussion. Yeah. We provide an expedition jacket for everybody when you board the ship. We also provide you rubber boots. We also to loan for the trip, and no walking spikes are required. We had some questions about that as well. Walking sticks, we provide those to loan you on a daily basis when needed. And we also provide a water bottle, can sit like this, an insulated water bottle. We have a partnership with Ocean Bottle, removing ocean plastic, and that goes into the manufacture of the bottle. So on board, we have these rubber boots or muck type boots, which are neoprene. They're as good as a waterproof Wellington, as we would call in the UK. We have from size 32 to 50 in European, which is very small to very large in every thing, up to I think size 15 US. When we do a nature landing or a wet landing, then we ask everybody, or everybody must wear these boots. But also where we walk and we do walks, then people can get changed into their own footwear. And we've created, we've had great fun copying images of suitable shoes. Karen, talk us through the footwear. But saying this, I'll just say we don't want people to go out and spend a fortune on a pair of hiking boots, but it's just what is suitable for when we on these trips in Arctic Canada.
And I guess actually, Tudor, also that most people probably have the whole selection here in there. So it's just a matter of you choosing the right one out of your closet or your shoe locker, basically. So if you look at the very bottom, the sneaker version is what we don't want you to wear, except for what Verena mentioned, on board. Perfect, great to have on board. But when you come shoreside, a bit sturdier is necessary. So you can see those with low heel or sort of low fresh, and then you have those with higher, who like the standard hiking boot. All of these that you see have smiley faces on them are acceptable for what we're doing. But when we ask you to wear boots, we ask you to wear rubber boots because it is a wet landing. So these will then make you wet. There is a lot of moraine where you walk and sand, which can also grit that will hold. And we try to not bring biomaterial from one side to the other to not spread that all over the Arctic, meaning these shoes, they trap biomaterial. The rubber boots we're going to give you does not, and we have a rigorous regime to clean them for biosecurity, and that's why in settlements these are perfectly fine, but wet landings you wear the rubber boots.
Yeah, and you know, I just guess for clarity that everywhere or virtually everywhere we're going on these trips, there's the roads are prepared gravel.
Yes.
There's no tarmac, there's no grass
lawn. There's no asphalt.
So it's uneven surfaces. So having that grip and that comfort is important. We want you to be
essential.
I hope those pictures there can kind of give you a visual of what kind of shoes we are talking about for the settlement visits. Yeah.
I like this slide. With big improvement.
I love this slide.
Yeah. Verena, as well as being our chief scientist, is a frustrated photographer and of course a bird watcher because scientist. And one of the questions we get is, what shouldn't I forget? And we ask any member of our expedition team. They say binoculars, which I 100% agree with. And lots of the questions, what binoculars do we mean?
So for wildlife watching, the best magnifications lie between 8 times and 10 times. For the objective sizes, we recommend between 32 and 42 millimeters. And the reason for that is the bigger the objective, the heavier the binocular will be, and you will have trouble focusing and following wildlife. So, but of course, if you already have a good pair of binoculars that you are comfortable with, then take those. But if you're willing to invest in a new pair, we certainly recommend to choose a combination of this magnification and objective size.
Yeah.
Karen was waving hers, but the fake screen, you can see. Hold them on your face, Karen. But yeah, again, I think that comfortableness to be able to hold and follow without the weight dropping
is important.
Yeah, and the 1042 that I have, for example, is a little bit too much. I mean, 832 or 842 would be a lot better, but it doesn't shake so much. So just for all of you out there, 1042, a bit too much. I have to lean into things to be able to
I think I was going to make the point here that obviously we've got the two itineraries. Fellow explorers, you're all booked on one or the other. These trips are long trips. You get the really immersion and in depth and the variety of different things that you'll see, from wildlife through to the communities, and the landscape is massive. So I would say prepare yourself for that, just because you can see, when we start in Greenland, there's a sort of big fjord system, and then as we go through the archipelago, we call one of the trips the Arctic Labyrinth. I don't know why we've got them as different names, but anyway, we have. It is a labyrinth and a maze of this Arctic archipelago, and the Northwest Passage route itself is actually multiple routes. So depending on the conditions, which we'll talk about a bit later, the route may vary. But it's just that variety and length of this trip. So just bear that in mind as you go. The scenery changes every day, depending on which way you go. It builds to the high Arctic slope. So yeah, absolutely incredible. But again, we're not going to a zoo, but you have to be looking to see, Verena, what might fellow explorers see?
Well, of course, we can expect wildlife both in the ocean and on land, and plenty birds, both seabirds and land-based birds. Like you can see in this image, a few examples. In terms of land animals, you can expect to see foxes and reindeer, and maybe some muskox as well. In terms of big animals in the ocean, you can expect to see a number of seals and whales. And amongst the seabirds, you can expect to see razorbills and guillemots and shearwaters and a lot of other amazing seabirds. And of course, there is also plenty life underwater, smaller microscopic wildlife that our science teams will be super happy to share with you in the Science Center sessions.
And as well as that, I think one of the things when we go ashore on our nature landings, I'm often surprised by the amount of life, but you've got to be looking to see it in these little pockets with the poppies, the willow, and the chickweed. Yeah, absolutely fascinating to see those things, and see that sort of life on the edge growing in the permafrost, and also the frost heave polygons. Yeah, I'm getting into my geology side of me, but yeah, great. Keep on looking. It's some fantastic things. But for one of the real highlights for the Northwest Passage is those visiting these really remote communities. And again, each one it's a very different feel. Karen, what would be your take on the community? We've got quite a few slides to talk about community, so we'll as a sort of good introduction.
I think you said very well that these are very remote communities. Most of the year they don't have that much visits. So these few weeks in the autumn, when there is an opening in the passage to be sailing through, they kind of get it all concentrated. So it's therefore also very important for them. But to the landscape, as you see, as you go from Ulahakdok over to Pond, first of all the Inuit both traditions are not exactly the same in all of them. They change because there are huge distances between them. So there are also equally unique traditions between each and one. And although they are all now quite modern, they have all the modern facilities that we have, but maybe not so many roads. But whatever roads they have, they drive cars. So, and I think a thing that is important when you go into these communities is to kind of not judge them on behalf of your own reality.
Experiences.
It is, and your experiences, yes, and your own reality, because I mean, where you live is different. So this is qualitatively different. So when you see that they have a lot of sort of gear standing outside their house, for example. There are skidoos and there are this and there are that, is because they don't have big sheds to put them in. They are used to having all of this outside. Doesn't mean that it's messy. It just means that it is qualitatively different, the way that they live. So I think from that perspective, it's really, really important to have that in mind and, be open-minded when you go.
Yes.
And then also from a landscape point of view, when you move from east to west, you will move. Yes, you will have alpine landscape as you move from east, and then it's going to be flat for days at end. But you have that combination of ice and that very, I would say, eerie, interesting, mystical kind of landscape. Although
and geology, right?
Yeah, but you will react to the fact that you think that, wow, is it really this flat? Yep, it is. And then there's a bit of hill, and then there's flat again. Yeah. Mm.
I think I was keen to put this here just to show the scale, but also to show that Arctic Canada is split into these regional self-governed Inuit regions.
Yes.
So we'll spend a lot of time in Nunavut, but also we'll be in Inuvialuit. Then of course we'll go to Alaska, so seeing these different territories, and they are run and very proud nations in themselves under the Canadian umbrella. Part of that is, which we, just to make you aware of, is the permits and the paperwork that we go through for these sailings, I think is extreme. And I know when I was involved in this side of stuff, I think it was 82 different permits of stations,
82
bits of paper we had to have to do the
this
transit.
passage.
So we have a team working in the background, making sure we have all that. And then also on both ships, we have a team. We have 4 cultural ambassadors, so people from Nunavut and Inuvialuit that are on board, sharing their local customs and culture with you. We also have an archaeologist everywhere we go. We have to have an archaeologist to make sure we are sympathetic with our landings and they are held to account. And we also have an elder on each ship. So we are really fortunate to have this team of locals on board to share their experiences with you. And that's a real sort of rich part of the voyage, as well as visiting communities. And you can see here, this is a very smiling me a number of years ago with on one of the trips with our geologist in the background as well, actually, with a group here. So fantastic, warm people, and getting to know the communities and the people and having those discussions. We also invite the elders on board the ship and some of the children each place to really make sure this is a two-way partnership.
An exchange, yes.
One of the questions we had in the thing was, how do we manage the people? When you're on board, if you haven't sailed with us before, we split you into groups. So every day there will be, everybody gets an opportunity to either go first, go last, go in the middle, to spread the load so you get the best guest experience, and also to manage the groups through the communities and nature landings. We'll talk about a bit more about excursions or shore excursions with our partners ashore in a bit, but and also the activities, but I thought I'd bring that in there. One of the big questions we've had, and there's been a few questions coming in, I understand, has been about ice. And of course, glacier ice and sea ice are very, very different beasts. Karen, you've spent more time on the sea than me and
any of us.
But we all like to study the ice, though, and it's something that really is part of working on ships in the polar regions.
It is.
The floor is yours. The ice is yours.
So the ice is the ice is nice, and you have 2 distinct types of ice that you will see on this voyage. And sea ice to the left is what you will mostly see when you go through especially through the Nunavut area, where the channels are narrow and ice is prevalent to be at this time of year. As we said, there is only a very short period of time during the year we can actually go through the Northwest Passage. Normally it is closed. And then you have to the right, you have the glacier ice, which is the more bigger chunks that kind of float around and higher in altitude and so forth, and jagged edges and so forth. Also incredible light mirror in those. Best to see when it's actually clouded. Sunshine is overrated in that sense. So this is the two types of ice, depending on where you are and depending what the activity is of the day. Going close to a glacier, this is glacier ice is what you see, and then sailing through the passages, you will see sea ice that have formed through the last.
And of course, one of the things that's made the Northwest Passage so fabled is that transit through the ice, and when it opens, and the history and the legacy. So that's one of the
many have done that commercially.
And the trade routes. Yeah. So current ice conditions. So I think it's and we've had some questions in as well. Amundsen and Nansen are both Polar Class 6 ships, which means they are ice strengthened. They are not icebreakers like a big Russian icebreaker. So they're ice strengthened, so they can go through fresh sea new sea ice, but with all ice navigation, if you go when you do ice navigation courses, all of it is the best ice navigation is to avoid it.
Yes.
I always find that interesting, unless you're in an icebreaker and then you burn a lot of fuel. But anyway, so Karin, current ice conditions and what we're looking at for this year.
Yeah, so this is updated today, and what you can see is that leaving Nome, for those who go west to east, east to west, doesn't really matter, is that the entrance into to the Bering Sea and the Beaufort Strait is still quite ice, but that is quite normal at this time of year. So this is from what we can kind of see from this picture is that we are having a relatively normal year, but this could slow us down for a bit, meaning that we can't go as fast as we want because we're going to have to force through ice. But what we expect is that the coastline of the Beaufort will be ice-free by the time that we start. But there might be some sections that could still have a few what we call tails of ice lying around. And as you can see also on this picture is that when you go through Inuit and to Ulahaktok and coming towards Cambridge Bay, it is still closed, which is absolutely normal at this time of year.
And then the Canadian government produced these amazing ice charts, which are which kind of psychedelic colors, and I think which I'll let you, Karin, and then there are these eggs which describe the different ice, and there's people that make a living out of interpreting these and writing these, so definitely something we do, but it does give us a good indication, and I think as you were saying, Karin, at the moment this is as expected, but we wanted to put the sort of update in there as it is now. But go ahead and do your science ice piece.
we're not going to start with the interpretation of the egg, because it has to do with density and of the ice itself, and then blah blah and so forth, and the concentration and so forth. But we can kind of give you what you see is dark gray is fast ice. So that area is 10 out of 10. And then you see orange and red, which is broken ice, but still very, very tight concentration. So when you start to move into green and yellows, you're starting to come in sort of, area where you can keep the speed.
Navigate.
Yes, but red is too much even for, then you have to be a super icebreaker to go through red. Orange you can do with a very, very careful approach with a PC6, but you have to be extremely careful. And if it's nothing around that you can kind of shove to the sides, this is now I'm starting to get technical. If you can't shove the ice to the side, with the thrusters and so forth, you're going to have to stop because you can't get out, and meaning you can't get forward and you can't get back either because it could close behind you. So this is science here, and purple is also 9+. So this is west. This is Ulahaktok and in the Northwest Territories towards Nunavut, and I made one kind of place of recognition on all of them, which is Resolute, which is
yes. So Resolute's on the far side of this one. So this is like the big bulk of the top of Canada, if we like, and then as we get to this one, we're moving.
Just to be able for you to have a reference point that is the same on both.
Mm-hmm.
Here we are moving eastwards, and we are coming to Nunavut, and as you see, there is now a bit of open sea there. But the passages down to Haven, through Ballast Strait and Cambridge Bay, still big red 9+. So that means that it's still and that's expected. And the dark gray is also still fast ice to Bay and so forth. So it's but it goes fast now at this time of year. You see weekly big changes on the ice chart. So this is now.
Yeah. And towards the end of July, it really starts to break up, and there's kind of and I'm always amazed by when we talk to ice pilots, ice services, and they say the 10-year average is on X date it will be open, and you're like, what?
You can't believe it.
And they're right. So our voyages are planned in terms of timing for this opening of the ice. So we don't see any red flags right now. If in the unlikely event that there are some red flags, then we are monitoring the ice on a or probably daily basis. So I was going to say a very regular, very regular basis. If there were any red flags, then of course we will be in touch. But at the moment, no red flags.
No red flags.
No. We have already started the daily monitoring. So that's because we need to see trends. So that's why we monitor now every day.
Yes. Okay. We're coming on to some sort of bits of more practical information. There's a little bit of repeat from what we said before, but again, to reinforce some of the questions in Nunavut and in Nunavut, then English and French are the co-official languages, but of course there are local dialects as well in Nuktitut and others. So some fantastic languages on board our ships, as you know. English is the working language, but again we have English, German kind of as standard on board. We've mentioned about the currency. We have had some questions come in about are there ATMs or cash points? There are, but we don't encourage people to use them because they are for the local community to use. So they're not charged up with lots of money for us visitors. But of course, in emergency, if you needed to use one, then of course that's accepted. But please, that's one of the reasons we ask you to take some currency. But yes, there are ATMs in the communities. The weather, we haven't really touched on the weather in terms of clothing. Hence the little prompt here. Karen, again, you mentioned that it can rain, fog. You can get fog, which is really cool. The wind, so you get the variety. And we put here the summer average, -5 to 10. But that point that you said about,
layering.
I think one of the things for me, having a neck gaiter or a buff or multiple ones, different hats.
Good hat. A good hat, hood. The jacket comes with a very good hood. So, I mean, that kind of gives you, but it's not warm, that hood. So I would recommend to kind of have a good warm hat underneath. And also because you will have a lot of time to be able to be outside on deck, and then you get the wind chill effect of the wind that just by sailing will give you. So layer up, and then you peel off.
But again, I think we've had questions about do I need to go and buy a high-tech mountaineering kit as if I was going to the Himalayas? It's practical layers of stuff that you've probably got in your cupboard. So jumpers, again,
Yeah.
some thermals to wear under.
Yeah.
We don't recommend jeans going off the ship because if they get wet, you get really cold.
Really cold.
That so we don't recommend jeans, but good pair of cotton trousers or that with a pair of thermals underneath work well with the waterproof
And the
pants.
waterproof pants. Don't forget the waterproof pants, please.
Yeah.
Because
we also, of course, people ask about seasickness. My general point, having done this trip and we've been following it for years, it's generally we're in protected waters. We are crossing over to Greenland, across Baffin Bay, and then we're up in the Bering Sea. So there are areas of fairly open water, and of course, wind and swell can come. But generally, it's not like a big open crossing, or in the North Sea where it can be.
Oh no.
A
lot deeper, North Sea is so shallow.
But if you are worried about seasickness, then you will know how susceptible you are to motion sickness. Then please do bring, people bring patches. Ginger is also a good natural remedy,
yes.
bracelets. But again, our ships have stabilizers. If you do have medication, then please do bring your own supply of medication. Also, as if you're going on holiday anywhere else in the world, we recommend putting that in your hand luggage. As much as we love airlines as a necessary evil to get us to and from these places, sometimes they mislay our bags. So it's really good to have to make sure you don't have to worry about your medicines if you do need some. On board our ships, we do have hospitals. We have a doctor and 2 nurses, so they're there. And the same as going on any holiday, we recommend travel insurance with medical evacuation insurance, just to make sure you're covered. We are in very remote places. Touch wood, nothing happens to you, but if you did, then it's a long way to get home if there was a medical repatriation required. One area, again, questions, insects. We know sometimes, again, totally dependent on the weather, where you are, not in all places, but we can have mosquitoes, bitey things. Karen, what's your top tips?
Top 2 is bring insect repellent, either a stick or a spray, and a head net. I would do that, and then, as it says, wear long sleeves and trousers. Not a big problem because it's so cold that you wouldn't want to walk around in shorts.
No,
really.
Always someone wants to go in shorts.
Always someone. Quite a few Aussies that have, just wanted to be feeling that they were in a warmer climate, but they kind of converted after a few days. But it is really those 3 things: a head net and your and an insect repellent of your choice.
And again, you'll know if you're susceptible to being bitten. I mean, I am. And it
swell.
Annoys me, but swell, and it's horrible. But so if you get bitten by midges in Scotland or whatever, then just come prepared. We mentioned biosecurity, Verena.
Yes, we really are aware that we can move things, like Karin said, from one side to the other. So we are really careful with the cleaning procedures. And that is also one of the reasons why we ask you on every nature landing to use the mock boots and not your personal pair of walking shoes. Also, they get wet, like Karin previously said, and they are also we put them through insecticide or pesticide, so that can also harm your personal footwear. So please be careful. And we also know that avian flu has had a significant effect on bird populations, particularly in the Arctic, and we do not want to spread that either by stepping on bird 1 and moving it from one place to the other. So we clean the equipment very thoroughly on board the ships, and we also ask you to vacuum clean every piece of clothing that you intend to wear ashore, the outer layer only, not the inner layers, but the outer layer. Of course, if these layers are new, there's no need to vacuum clean them, but yes, be very attentive not to move things around.
Yeah.
And of course, in destination-specific fireside chats, we've talked a lot about the science and education program, but just in terms of briefly what people can expect from their time on board. Yeah.
Yeah, so we really try to immerse you as much as possible into the destination. We want you to understand the place, the ecosystems, the wildlife, the communities, and therefore our science and education program will offer lectures, thematic lectures focusing on ornithology and on the marine ecosystems, in geology, you name it. And not only the lectures, we will also invite you to participate in sessions in the Science Center, where we will use our museum-type exhibits to bring all these concepts to another level, to make it more hands-on experiences. And we will also invite you to participate in other science-related activities like our science boat, which we will mention here as well, where you will help us collect data and samples, sometimes for research projects, and we will look at the samples when we're back on board through the microscopes. We also contribute to a number of citizen science projects, which we run mostly while we are doing our deck watches on deck. Our experts will help you to become comfortable using the applications that sometimes are linked to these citizen science projects. And if you want to prepare before joining and participate in this citizen science project, here you find 5 QR codes to the most or important that we think will be the most appropriate for you. If you like birds, eBird and Merlin, the 2 in the middle are for you. If you are more a plant person, we recommend that you install iNaturalist, or if you're traveling with your kids, also the Seek app. It's a lighter version of iNaturalist, but they allow you to really record all the plants and animals that you see during the trip. We will, of course, also, if we see whales, we will try to, or we encourage you, if you have your super zoom camera, to take pictures of those whales and invite you to upload those pictures to the Happy Whale platform.
And it's the tail they want, right?
For the humpback whales, it's the tail. Yeah. For other whale species, it can be the fins or special marks on the bodies.
And our expedition team of 22, plus our cultural ambassadors, plus our elder, plus our archaeologists will be there to work with you and share infinite amount of knowledge and experience to make you make the trip the best they possibly can.
Exactly.
We have lots of activities when we're there, from kayaking, which is bookable on board when you join, through to nature landings we've talked about, community visits, wildlife spotting, small boat cruising, and then those cultural experiences. But I know we've had a lot of questions about optional excursions. We have over 30. It's a long. Yeah. Over 30 excursions to choose from. In every place, in every community that we stop, we have an included excursion. These will be booked automatically for you, so there's no need to book those or try and pre-book them. They'll be booked automatically. At the start of the trip, there will be a briefing from our expedition coordinator that will go through all the excursions for the trip and the prices for the extra ones, and give you a run through, and you can book them on board. If you would like to pre-book them, then there are opportunities or to go on in our website. If you go onto your specific voyage, there is this tab on the bottom right. I have to admit, it's not the clearest of places, but you click there, and it will give you the information about the excursions in each community, and it will run through those, and you can email or call our customer service center and book those. But this year we do have more excursions in the Northwest Passage trips than ever. We've partnered with Arctic Kingdoms, which are local suppliers. So we have some really great trips, from storytelling through to sightseeing. So some really, really lovely sort of intimate trips.
Food experience.
Yeah, all sorts of different experiences. So in Précy, every community, there is an included one that is automatically booked. You can go through and book all the excursions on board. The expedition coordinator will go through and book those with you. If you would like to pre-book, and if there's something you want to really go into, then please go into the website on your specific voyage. You can read through them. Also, in your voyage documents, there will be information about the excursions as well. So there's multiple different ways about doing looking at those activities. Of course, when we're not in a community, we'll be doing nature landing, small boat cruising. There's plenty going on these trips, as well as a myriad of different activities on board the ship. And again, you choose how much you want to do, whether you do everything or whether you enjoy looking through the window, having a gin and tonic, and looking at the incredible scenery as we sail. Also know there have been lots of questions about pre and post boarding information. You should now all have your voyage documentation with your flight information, and we're aware that, of course, you're all coming from different places from all around the world. So although some of you will be doing the same trip to get to the ship and to leave the ship, everyone's has a sort of bespoke package made to fit your needs. So embarkation in Nuuk, then we have a number of flights arriving from different places. So depending on when you arrive, then there'll either be an orientation tour or we'll take you to the ship. So again, it depends on where you are. So there is a variety, and the same when you embark and disembark in Nome. But the full information should be in your documentation. If it's not, then please call in. And also for disembarkation, then the expedition coordinator on board will be able to help you. And also when you arrive at the hotels, then our hospitality desk will also be able to help you. But again, if you have any questions, uncertainty, then better to ask than have those uncertainties. There are a myriad of different books on
yes.
These are a few that we pulled out. Of course, the amount on Franklin are massive. I'm going to ask Alice now to screenshot this and put it in the chat so you can, or you can take a photo of it. The few on the right, Split Tooth is a new novel in 2018 by a Canadian musician, and it really tells the story of a young Inuk woman, and it's a fascinating story, and it won a recent award. So very good book to read in terms of life now. And the Nunavut is very much about sort of modern day politics and political culture, and it's quite a complex book, looking basically on the author's fieldwork and research, but it really sort of appealed to those that are interested in politics, social science, politics, sociology of the Canadian Arctic. So a real myriad of stuff, but of course we encourage you to do as much research as you wish to enjoy your voyage. Entry requirements, again, aware you are all coming from different places and there can be different things and it can be a minefield. So we very much would like you to make sure that there's no hiccups on the way. So please do check your requirements for visas. We do know that everybody requires an ESTA for the USA, an ETA for Canada, and you can apply online, and they're $10-15. I've forgotten the
Valid for 2
price.
years.
And again, we mentioned insurance, but please check those. Everybody must have a valid passport, and it must be valid for at least 6 months when you board the ship, and that's a company policy. We mentioned flights, and there were some questions. Potentially we need to change? May we land a flight in Canada? The sort of message back is be prepared. This is a long voyage, and we do have potential changes. Hopefully we stick to plan A, touch wood, but we are touching through Greenland, Canada, and the USA. So those are the areas. Again, we hope for plan A, but if something, medical evacuation, fingers crossed none of these things happen, but be prepared. So make sure you've got
flexibility.
we've got no holdups and that flexibility to do those. You're all here. So we've got, but just as a recap of our contact details in the different areas. So if you do have any questions, again, reach out. We very much look forward to welcoming you on board. We hope we've answered lots of your questions. And again, we've got the great team have been tapping away answering questions in the background. I'm going to ask Ollie, who's just joined us now, stop sharing screen. He's been fielding questions as we've gone through. So Ollie, over to you as I try and move this to stop sharing my screen.
Thank you very much. A absolute ton of content there, and hopefully that has armed everybody well for their upcoming exciting expeditions. And we've had a lot of questions in the chat, so thank you everybody for all of your engagement. I will kick off with the boots question. So maybe Karen, if you could help, please. There's a few questions about clamps, crampons, spikes.
Yeah,
Do people need to bring them? Is there any benefit?
No, not needed. Not needed for anything on that voyage. So, and it's not crampons, because crampons means that you are really going on a glacier hike. Spikes also not necessary for this voyage. So it's more sturdy, good boots, and our rubber boots that we use in polar regions from before. Yeah.
I think often people perceive that they're going to be slipping all over the place and think bring these, but
no. It's going to be mostly gravel and no snowy surfaces you walk on.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. Thanks for clarifying. And then a question around how cold is it outside on average compared to Antarctica in the summertime? So Tudor, there's questions about that, and the expedition jackets and whether they're thick enough for the activities.
I would say it's similar to an Antarctic voyage. We do, I find in the Arctic and Arctic Canada, when I've been, you get that variety, and you can get, if you get low cloud, I find more in the Arctic, the low cloud, you feel colder in the bones.
It feels colder. Yeah, I agree. You have that moist cold. Yeah.
But the expedition jacket we supply is really good in the wind and really good in the wet. It's not a thermal jacket.
No.
So if you do feel the cold, then also sometimes I use a thin down jacket underneath the expedition jacket.
Or a thick woolen sweater.
Or woolen sweater, And then sometimes you use this the 3 layering system, which is the base layer, thin wool, and then you use thick wool on top, and then you use your waterproof jacket, or you use base layer wool, or you use a down jacket like Tudor
said,
and then your waterproof layer on.
Keeping the options open. But layering.
And for
sorry.
No, I was just going to say that and that's kind of up, and then when you go further down and you're going to have your pants on, then it's a two layering. So you have a good long john on, which is insulated, and then your waterproofs on top.
Yeah. And normally we give people a size up from what you'd expect or what you typically have, because you need that flexibility of layering up underneath, right? And you can take layers off.
You typically go up one size, and you're going to try it on board, so you kind of get the jacket that fits for what you need it to be.
Yeah.
So you don't have to decide now. That can be done when you're there. But yeah.
Brilliant. Right, Verena, there's lots of wildlife questions.
Okay.
So narwhals, walruses, polar bears. Can you please talk a little bit about what people can expect to see in those?
Knew it.
And, yeah, belugas as well was covered.
Yeah.
Well, all those, like Tudor said, we're not going to be in a zoo. We are talking about wildlife. The encounters are always the best that can happen for everybody on such a trip, but they cannot be guaranteed. Polar bear, probably more in the Arctic Canada region, would be an option to see them. And yes, and narwhals and walruses, it's more towards the eastern Arctic that we do see those two species, not so much in this area.
Ice
but whales, yeah. No, but other kinds of whales like humpback whales and orcas could potentially be spotted in these areas. A tip that I would give for whale lovers, if you want to know what has been spotted before you join the ship, go to happywhale.com and zoom in on the map, and then you will see what whales have been observed there. Just prior to your departure.
And just I see Karen's. Go, Karen.
I just this is important, because this has to do with the traditions that we mentioned earlier. The population in the Arctic is a hunting population.
Yes,
so it means
that's true.
Especially for the narwhal that we have seen have been redistributed to other fjord systems. Are in the fjord systems that we would like to go, and that could be that the local population of one district would like us to stay away. For example, we have a good example in Eclipse Sound and Navy Board Inlet outside of Pond Inlet, where there are active hunting cultures, and when there is a lot of ships coming, it disturbs their hunting, and they only have a very few weeks to do this, to fill up their freezers and get everything ready for the winter. So we have to respect that. So there are areas that we have to stay away because of the
hunting.
Hunting and migration of caribou and so forth. So
and narwhal are incredibly sensitive and
very precise.
Shy. So actually, the chance of seeing narwhal is really, that's where they live.
Very low.
Really, really low.
Yeah.
Seeing bowhead whales in the Bering Sea, yes. Fantastic sightings there that we've had most years. Polar bears, you mentioned, Verena, good. Again, in Nunavut. So you've got to be looking to see that the expedition team will be looking, the bridge team will be looking, but also taking the binoculars is a good thing. But
and also joining the dog watches every day, every morning to learn also how to spot the wildlife.
Polar bear sightings have been quite common in East Arctic, so in the Nunavut area. So there is a good chance for that.
Right.
But they're all hunted. I just want to.
Yes.
But we do make announcements, right? If we see something exciting, the team will announce it.
Yes.
That's key as well. Karen, another one of your favorite topics: waterproof pants, ski pants versus. And we do, it's fair to say, highly recommend that every guest brings a pair of waterproof trousers. But there's the age-old debate about ski pants or waterproof or both.
The eternal questions about the quality of the waterproof pants. Don't go and buy, Tudor mentioned it, don't go and buy like high-tech pants that is climbing proof or whatever. Not needed. You need a simple pair of easy take on and off waterproof pants that you can get in sports shops that don't have to be super technical. You just have to have that ability to keep the spray off and you don't get wet. So simple is enough.
Yeah, makes sense. Thank you. In terms of, there's a few practical questions around flights and things that I'm not sure that the team on the panel here will be able to answer, but please do reach out to our call center or your travel agent directly with those questions. When it comes to, there's a question around alternative routes. Should the Northwest Passage be closed east to west? How do we approach that, and how likely is that?
At the moment, we don't see any red flags. Worst case scenario, if we can't make it, then we have to turn around. But that's worst case scenario. And then we also have a team behind the scenes to work if that was the case. But again, that would be worst case scenario. We're not going to leave the ship stranded in the Arctic for the winter.
No.
So your safety is our key concern.
Paramount.
Yeah.
So, you know, in any expedition we have plan A, plan B itineraries. So we would look at doing that. But yeah, worst case scenario, we'd have to turn around. But again, no red flags at the moment.
And I think also to that question, Ollie, is that when the route is relatively one way until you get to Johaven, when you get to Johaven, there are a few ways you can get to Lancaster Sound, which is, for example, you could either take Ballast Strait and then go into Prince Regent Sound, or you can take Peel Sound and go. So there is a few kind of outlets.
Options, yeah.
But yeah, to get to Lancaster Sound. And I think that is what the kind of the difference between, there are many ways to be in the Northwest Passage. Those are the different routes in the Northwest Passage that we're talking about. Okay. So it's not just one, but in that you can do 2 or 3. Yeah.
Thank you. Cool.
Yeah.
And then there's a question, Tudor, that great picture of you, the giant amongst the local community. I know in the past we've talked about gifting to local communities, and that's a really nice touch and something we love to engage with those communities that we meet. So one of the questions here is about whether somebody could donate their previous jacket to the community, and just any comments you may have around that, maybe Tudor.
I think I'm actually going to ask Karen to answer this, because we said in a similar webinar for Greenland, we said something and it was kind of misinterpreted by our fellow guests, and then some, I think it was just the fact that, you know, they were, because, you know, it was school supplies.
Yes.
And they are well kind of stocked up, but I mean, kindergartens and youth clubs and so forth, they could do with it. So, I mean, because our guests were so good, when we said, bring school supplies,
they brought a lot.
I mean, oh my God, they did. I mean, they're so amazing.
Amazing.
So, and to this, jackets. And what we will do is we will reach out to the local development officer, which is a kind of regional custodian for tourism. And I would think that if you have a guest jacket from a previous trip and you're now getting a new one, that will be absolutely welcome, because we kind of given away jackets in the past to local. I remember, Tudor, we gave away the whole was full of red jackets in the end. I
think that the real point behind it is absolutely, you know, the same as going anywhere. You know, showing kindness is of course much appreciated by people, but it's respecting local customs and cultures, and of course they're a rich community that are self-sufficiency, you know, so it's not like going to give, you know, here you go because you really need this. It's about respecting that culture and the community. So if it's done in a sympathetic way, absolutely wonderful. And it's something that we, you know, working with the team, we have the cultural ambassadors on board, which have come from communities, so engaging with them and talking with them of where a suitable donation may go. Of course, absolutely brilliant, and that's part of how we work with communities.
Yeah.
Great, thank you. There's a lot of questions around electronic travel authorization ETAs. I'm not sure if you guys are the right people to ask that question. Does
I mean,
anybody...
we obviously, when we go on board, we apply for them ourselves, just through the Canadian government website. And again, it's a fairly simple form, as is the ESTA.
ESTA. Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure, again, maybe we're not the right people to answer, but on some of them it asks for an address of where you're going, and of course that would be your first hotel, which you have as part of your voyage documentation and your itinerary.
I mean, the best thing to do is to check with your national authority around this and whether the travel requirement is needed. I believe that most European citizens, for example, do need an ETA.
Yeah,
yes,
they do.
And it's
I
really
think
important.
everyone does, or a visa. If you require
yes,
a visa to go into the US, then that supersedes the ESTA.
the ESTA.
But at basic level, everybody needs a visa or an ESTA.
Yep.
But the ESTA covers it for most. But check.
Yeah. And there's a question around the Northern Lights. Is there any chance of seeing the Northern Lights?
Yes.
It is.
And it's usually we get that question about the polar regions, and it's like, no, because you're in the polar summer. This is towards the end of the summer season, turning into the autumn. So again, at late night, we've had, I've been on board. We've had fantastic sightings. But again, late at night, but an announcement will be made if they are seen. But there are opportunities.
Good question.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then somebody's just asked to clarify, Karen, school supplies, yes or no, or what?
School supplies, yes. I would say no now.
No.
Because
after last.
I would say no now for this year. I think we need to be more specific to where we would like to let that go. So jackets, yes. School supplies, no. For now.
Great. Thank you.
Or for this year, I would say. Yeah.
One final question. How close to the North Pole do we get? I don't know who wants to cover that. Do you know off the top of your head?
Not.
There's a test for you.
I'd say almost we go up to about 76.
No.
75.
Because we are, Lullisat is just
quite a long way.
Yeah.
Over 1,000 nautical miles.
Way more, yeah.
Which would be,
yeah.
Brilliant.
The ocean is big.
Well,
yes.
I think that concludes the Q&A. Thank you all very much for your presentation and your questions, and thanks to everybody for joining. If you do have specific questions outstanding, then please do reach out to our contact center or your travel agent, because there are some quite specific questions within there. But thank you to Tudor, Verna and Karen for covering all the questions that you were able to. And if
I've done a quick calculation. It's 1,400 kilometers.
Yeah, 1,000.
That's about 1,000 miles.
1,000 miles.
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Right,
Yes.
Yeah.
Brilliant. The only thing that would be great is that a feedback survey will pop up as this call closes, and we'd love to hear your feedback so that we can learn and improve for future. So have a fantastic expedition. Safe travel.
Enjoy.
Yes, enjoy.
Thank you very much. The team in the background that have been making this happen. Ollie, of course, Alice, Maria, Lasse, Tony, Lee, Olga and Maria, thank you very much for making
for
this
the help
in the background. And we very much look forward to welcoming you on board and have an amazing trip. It's an incredible voyage.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you.
Have a great trip.
Thanks.
Cheers.
Bye.